This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. James Campbell, the Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds, is here today to introduce the company, tell us about the case for diamonds, and we'll take a look at the projects in detail and what stage they're at. So hello, James. Thank you very much for your time today. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, Mark, and it's lovely to chat to you on this lovely day.
Good. It's good to have you all the way from South Africa. So thank you very much for your time. So now, Botswana Diamonds is a diamond exploration and project development company that holds exploration licenses in Botswana and South Africa. And the strategy is to secure high potential ground and projects in the most prospective diamond provinces of Africa by using your extensive African experience and diamond knowledge. Looking in areas of traditional diamond geology, with the focus being Botswana, which you've said is the best diamond address in the world and home to some of the world's greatest diamond mines. So before we get into that, can you start us off with maybe a high-level overview and elevator pitch of Botswana Diamonds?
Thank you very much indeed, Mark, and thank you for having me again. Well, your introduction gave a fantastic snapshot of what Botswana Diamonds is all about. We believe we're one of the leading speculative plays in this area of the diamond market worldwide, and we're primarily focused in Botswana, but also in the Kalahari of Botswana, which I will talk about in more detail as we progress. In the Kalahari of Botswana, we have a joint venture with Vast on the Gugu Mine. We have our own project in KX36, which has an indicated resource. And we have our own projects in Sunland and Maibwe, all in the Kalahari of Botswana. Not only that we are focused on an advanced project in South Africa called Thorny River, which was very close to the Marsfontein discovery, which was famous for having a 3.5-day payback. And to wrap all of that up, the board and management have got well over a century, may in fact be 2 centuries, embarrassingly, of diamond experience. And that's absolutely vital because the diamond world is a small and intense world. And then the director's family and friends control about 40% of the company. And Botswana Diamonds' lineage is from African Diamonds PLC, which discovered and developed the Gugu Mine, which was bought out by Lucara, and where the original shareholders made a 25 times return on their money.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, let's look at the case for diamonds then, because from my point of view, there's not a whole lot of companies, certainly not from an investing point of view, that are in the diamond space. I think it's a little misunderstood, or there's just not very much information around. So can you sort of make the case for diamonds for me?
Well, Mark, it all starts about what diamonds are there for. Diamonds are there for to celebrate the major occasions in your life, typically around love. And so it's been very symbolic around engagement rings and wedding rings. And for example, in the UK and in the US, you are almost obliged to spend 4 months gross salary on an engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just in the UK and the US, but it's across the world itself, India, China, and everywhere else. But like any market which deals in luxury goods, during the COVID pandemic, there was a significant drop in rough diamond pricing, somewhere between 30 and 40%. But unsurprisingly, as America came out of the lockdown, there was a pent-up demand of diamond engagement and diamond rings and wedding rings and celebration of life events. So the diamond market rebounded very, very fast. And this is something that has happened through global financial crisis, Spanish flu, the different world wars. You can go back in history and you'll see the diamond market drops fast, rises fast. But what we're now seeing is a steady increase in demand rather than a plateau because of the long-term supply-demand fundamentals where supply is plateauing and gradually dropping. but demand is gradually increasing, especially with the growth in the US economy and with the growth of the middle classes in the Far East.
Mm-hmm. So is it mostly, are the diamond prices mostly driven by consumer demand?
It's chiefly driven by consumer demand, absolutely. So if you don't have the money to celebrate an engagement, for example, you may defer your engagement, or you might price your engagement ring downwards because you can no longer afford to spend 4 months. You would spend maybe a month or thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it is very linked to demand.
Okay. What can you tell me about the fluctuations in prices then? Because obviously we know commodities go through cycles where you have, a lot of supply and then the price obviously drops off, then the reverse happens, and you tend to see these cycles. But if it's driven, apart from black swan events like COVID, for example, that would stop people buying diamonds, is it fair to say that there should always almost be a steady demand? I mean, how does the price fluctuate?
There always is a steady price around that mark, but what you are finding is you're getting more segmentation in the market, and there are two kind of drivers behind that. At the bottom end, you are getting some rough diamond price erosion because of synthetics. Essentially, lab-grown diamonds have taken quite a large market share right at the very, very bottom end.
Mm-hmm.
And equally, where there is a lot of focus at the moment is on the whole aspect about real is good, and you're buying something that's 5.5 billion years old, but also branding around diamonds itself. Do you want a diamond that's been branded with a polar bear, for example, from Canada, or from the Kalahari of Botswana? So those are your other kind of dynamics in the diamond space. And what typically happens is that the bottom end of the market is much more volatile, whereas the top end of the market, which is chiefly focused around higher net worth individuals, is much less volatile, and there's much more steady growth around it.
Okay. And is there any industrial applications for diamonds as well, or is it very small compared to the consumer?
Market's very, very small compared to the consumer, and much of the industrial demand on drill bits, for example, whether they be domestic drill bits or large drilling that we would do for our geological work, is typically done through synthetic diamonds.
Okay. And where are we now then with the diamond price historically? What's it looking like now?
Well, it's rebounded to be well over where it was pre-COVID. So we're looking about 5 to 10% above where it is pre-COVID. And our market commentators, we look at people like Paul Zimnisky from the United States as probably one of the leading market commentators. So we've got Robert Bouquet on our board, who sits in Antwerp, one of the largest diamond trading centers, as seeing that there looks like a steady growth at least over the next 18 months, barring, as you said, any kind of black swan event.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, well, let's now look at a bit of the projects then. And of course, Botswana is the focus. So can you just take us through, the strategy of what you're going to do, and then really why Botswana?
Botswana is the largest diamond producer in the world by carats. You've got the fabulous Debswana joint venture between De Beers and the government of Botswana, which owns the Droneng, Letlhakane, and Arapa diamond mines. And of course, you've got the Karowe diamond mine owned by Lucara. So it's got a very long history of successful, profitable diamond mining. Not just that, people call Botswana the Switzerland of Africa because it's the #1 mining destination in Africa. The rule of law is clear. It's a stable country with a high degree of certainty in terms of legislation. But not just that. You've got the Kalahari, which occupies the central portion of Botswana, where there is the Gugu Mine, which we've acquired from GEM in partnership with VAST. You've got KX36, which is the highest grade discovery since the discoveries by De Beers of Arapa, Droneng, Letlhakane, and AK6. And you have a lot of underexplored ground, which is ripe for exploration, and therein our focus on the Kalahari itself.
I see. Okay, okay. And the strategy really is to acquire good-looking assets in the Kalahari region.
Absolutely. The core of that focus is on Gugu and KX36.
Okay.
Gugu being the near-term producer. We're currently in looking at the regulatory approvals and could be in production by the end of next year. KX36 is not so far away; it's a little bit behind it. It's got an indicated resource and a competent persons report on it, and we have the majority of the ground position in the Kalahari surrounding it, with the objective of fresh discoveries.
Okay. Okay, great. And what about other players in the area, James? Are there lots of other people operating in Botswana?
Mark, it's actually a very, very good question. Before the global financial crisis in 2009, there were at least a dozen or more explorers in Southern Africa listed on the AIM market, the TSX or the ASX. And today, there are only two really active listed juniors in Botswana. That's ourselves and Pangolin Diamonds, TSX, the listed company. Of course, you've got De Beers doing exploration work and Lucara too as well. And then in South Africa, aside from ourselves, you only have London AIM listed Blue Rock Diamonds who are mining the Karifle deposit near Kimberley. So there is a small amount of competition from a listed company perspective. However, from a private company perspective, there are many operators in South Africa. And in Botswana, we're partnered with a group called Diamexstrat, which is partnered with Australian-listed Burgundy Diamonds in terms of a farming arrangement on our exploration assets in the Kalahari.
Okay. Okay, well, let's take a deeper look into the projects then, and let's start with the Gugu. Is that how you say it? The Gugu.
That's the Gugu mine. Absolutely.
Oh, the Gugu mine. Okay, yes. Well, go on then. Give me an overview of what stage you're at with this project.
The Gugu mine is one of the largest available diamond resources globally, as such, and this is why we look to acquire it from Gem Diamonds. It's a fully permitted diamond mine. It's produced just under 150,000 carats of diamonds already. It's situated right in the middle of our heartland, the central Kalahari itself. And Gem have spent roughly $250 million in developing an underground operation with a state-of-the-art processing plant. Now, we've made an offer which has been accepted to acquire the mine for $4 million, and we're currently in the process of the regulatory approvals. It has an indicated resource of just under 80 million tons, so it's large, at a grade of just under 20 CPHT, but very importantly, it's got a high average dollar per carat of round about 240 as per the CPR, which is more than double the average industry dollar per carat. So that area we focus on because it gives us lower volatility in prices going forward. Unsurprisingly, it has high value gems, including orange and blue diamonds, which are particularly valuable. And so what will our focus be once we actually take over the operation? It will be in converting the diesel power generation to solar, putting in new Tomero sorters to improve the diamond recovery, and use the kind of approaches which we're familiar with in Botswana Diamonds to make it commercial.
Okay, so this project is really it is an existing mine, and you're looking to acquire it. It's got a good resource on there. So you feel there's a lot of potential here for this.
We do feel there is a lot of potential. It's a mine that was acquired by a much larger company, and it was no longer part of their strategy going forward.
Okay,
and this is why they looked at disposing of it. And often in the mining environment, there's a bit like it's a food chain in a way, isn't there? You start with a large mine being run by a large corporate. Once they've kind of done their bit, and it goes down to a mid-tier company. Mm-hmm. And once they've done their bit, it goes down to the juniors. And everybody kind of gets their kind of commercial return from it. And then it often goes to the private operators actually after that. So we're only the second in the food chain here. It was discovered by Falconbridge, bought by De Beers. They never turned it into a mine. Gem turned it into a mine. was no longer part of their strategy going forward. And it's because of the very small number of operators in our region, your question a few moments ago, that there were not a large number of people who would be interested in doing something such as this in the region.
Okay, so it's not that the mine is spent and no one wants it anymore. It's just that it's not part of the current operator owner's strategy, like you say. They've done what they can on it, and it's going to the next player, if you like, in the space.
Absolutely. If you look at that, it's got a resource of 79.3 million tons. That's at a grade of 20 CPHT. That's just about 15 million carats or thereabouts. They've only mined 150,000 carats. So it's very small percentage which has actually been taken out of it so far.
Okay. So when you're hoping to complete on this, do you have a timeline in mind, and then plans to develop it and take it forward as you see fit once you've completed on it?
Absolutely, Mark. What we're currently focused on, and I'm going to Botswana tomorrow morning to meet with the director of mines, is the two major regulatory approvals, which is with the Competition Authority and with the director of mines. And we anticipate that to be done well before the end of the year. Now, in Botswana, the rule of law is clear. You follow the legislative guidelines, you make sure you fill in the forms properly, you have the right level of engagement, and we say no reason why that should not be completed. And then at the beginning of next year, what we would, assuming it does take to the end of this year, is we would like to do a feasibility study to update particularly the underground mine plan, because that's really important. As I said, the plant is already in place, but there are a few things we actually need to do with it. We then need to start dewatering the mine, and that will take about 4 months. And whilst we're dewatering, we can process the 200,000 tons of DMS tailings, which are present there. And by the time the mine has been dewatered and the tailings have been mined out, we can then recommence with underground production.
I see. Okay, so you do definitely have a plan then to
exactly
to advance this forward when you complete. That sounds very good. So generally, I mean, you seem pretty pleased with this. Is it you think you're getting something really good here? It's already very advanced. There's no exploration work really to do. The deposit is found. There's a resource there. So really, you can get it into production in an acceptable amount of time and start generating some revenue. So you must, that's how I see it. Is that correct? And how do you feel about that?
Mark, I think you're absolutely correct. When we get on to KX36, I'll almost give you an analogous situation.
Yeah.
That we're buying something for $4 million, which has essentially been de-risked by GEM. Now, we've got 150,000 carats of diamond information. We've got buckets of financial, technical, geotechnical information itself. All the permits have actually been done. For us to take a fresh discovery in the Kalahari to this particular point would probably cost in the region of $10 to $15 million at least. That would be to kind of take it to feasibility study stage, and then you need to kind of apply for the capital to get there. So you're looking at maybe at least between $50 and $100 million. So we were delighted that this came on the market. And we've had the conversation with GEM Diamonds over it, but not just that itself, but it's so synergistic to everything else we're doing in the Kalahari as well. So we have a real pipeline from Gugu being very near-term production, KX36 just behind it, and then all of our exploration assets sitting behind that.
And if I can ask you just on the valuation that you're picking up for $4 million US, that seems like a song.
Mark, it is a very good price. I think it goes back to my point of earlier that if this was pre-2009 and there were maybe a dozen other operators in the region, I don't think GEM would have sold it for this amount of money, because there would be many more people who are interested in it. But this kind of project was probably too small to move the dial for Lucara or De Beers or any of the larger operators in Botswana. But for us, who is a small cap, micro cap, call it what you will, under 10 million pounds, this is a potential company maker. But very importantly with this is that in order to structure it correctly for our shareholders, we're partnered with Vast Resources on this particular project, and we're also partnered with them in Zimbabwe. So we've had a long partnership with Vast, and they clearly have an appetite for getting involved in larger scale production in Botswana. So we were delighted to be able to work with them as they're footing the majority bill on the project.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. That gives a really good overview of that project. So now let's do the comparison and talk about your other project, KX36. Do you want to start by giving me a bit of an overview of this one?
Absolutely, Mark. This goes back to actually the very beginning of the pandemic, when my chairman and I were discussing what are we going to do during the pandemic, seeing that we actually can't get out and do sampling and geophysical work. And I said, well, let's have a look to see what acquisition opportunities are available, which we always do anyway. But in times such as this, we tend to have a contrarian view. We have a long-term view on the diamond market. We understand how long it takes to take a project from exploration through to mining. It could often be 10 years. And many other people have different views. So we struck up a new conversation with Petra, which we'd actually had 3 years ago, on whether they would be willing to sell their exploration assets in Botswana, which they were. And we sold it and they sold it to us at a royalty. And it's essentially 4 major things in Sakaka, in Petra's company called Sakaka. The KX36 and a sampling plant, which we're going to talk about now, exploration licenses, and then one of the largest databases in Botswana itself, which we'll talk about later. The KX36, as the strapline says here, is the most significant diamond discovery since the Arapa and Droneng clusters, which were discovered in the 1960s. And even though Gugu Mine, operated by Lucara, only started operation about 6 or 7 years ago, that was originally discovered in the 1960s by De Beers. So Petra did a phenomenal job of really precise exploration work to discover this KX36 deposit, which is only 60 kilometers away from Gugu. So there are clearly economies of scale and synergies to be found here. It is a higher graded deposit. You can look at the modeled grade range of between 57 and 76, but the diamond value is a little bit smaller, a little bit lower. But that's something that we're going to have to focus on in terms of our future stage of work on the project.
Okay. So what will be your work then? You've got to do some more exploration work, have you, here?
That's correct. Mark, what we've got here is we've got quite wide grade and value ranges. And even though it's got an indicated resource, we need to tighten those ranges up. Because once we've been able to tighten those ranges up, we can take the current pre-feasibility study, which Petra did on KX36, to the next level, and hopefully then hook it in to the Gugu project. So we have 2 mines operating in the region.
Okay. So Gugu is really your near-term win, if you like, and KX36 is more of a blue sky exploration.
Well, I wouldn't say KX36 is blue sky. We'll talk about blue sky in a moment. We've already got the indicated resource here. It's more of a question of optimizing it, actually, rather than exploration work. We call this evaluation, or you can call it advanced exploration. But certainly Petra have taken a large amount of the risk out of the project itself. Okay.
And that 3D I can see on the screen there, that is existing work that's been done, is it?
That's correct. That's the geological model. Your vertical lines in there are the boreholes, and your different colors in that kind of cylinder shape, for want of a better word, are the different kimberlite and waste intrusions within the kimberlite pipe itself.
Okay. And do you have a plan then? Do you have your next stage exploration plans here?
Yes, we do have a plan here, Mark. The original plan was to sink another shaft here and do underground bulk sampling work, which is the conventional approach to taking this forward. It's exactly what De Beers did on Gugu after they acquired it from Falconbridge. But we're looking at doing some work around large diameter core drilling, which would be cheaper, quicker, and perhaps even more efficient in terms of optimizing the diamond grade and value. That work is still quite new, but we're working with some cutting edge consultants on this to actually see how we can do this and improve upon conventional approaches.
Okay. And when you were hoping to perhaps get the drills turning?
I would hope to do this next year. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So fairly soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. So that's we have Gugu, the most advanced. We've got KX86 advanced exploration. So now let's talk about Blue Sky. Then there's some other projects that Botswana Diamonds have got. So yeah, what can you tell us about these?
Okay, this is the kind of the back end of the pipeline now.
Okay.
It is that, as I mentioned earlier, when we acquired Sakaka Diamonds, part of the acquisition was a very large package of data covering 95,000 square kilometers of ground, 375,000 line kilometers, 228,000 soil samples, 32,000 drill hole logs. So a huge amount of data that had been compiled by Petra. We also have our own data going back a decade or more in Botswana itself. And we're very pleased to sign a joint venture with Dimextrat, which is a privately owned Botswana company, which has an alliance with Burgundy Diamond Mines, an Australian company, where they are farming in to anywhere where we have the data, plus all of our prospecting licenses. And what Dimextrat can do is these guys are complete experts in looking at vast data sets, complementary data sets, looking at geophysics, looking at sampling results, looking at drilling results, looking at radar results, looking at satellite results, and putting it all together to look for new and fresh target areas which perhaps have been missed by other people in the past. And we're well down that road already, and in terms of identifying different target areas, and we hope within the next couple of months to announce a work program on those new target areas.
Okay. So the market can look forward to that in a couple of months then. So that will be actually a work program in terms of actually drilling.
It will be, yes.
Yeah.
There might be some geophysical work, Mark, around it as well, because in the middle of the Kalahari, you do need that to actually site your boreholes exactly in the right place, because you don't want to actually kind of mess about and drill negative boreholes unless you can really help it.
Okay, good. Well, I'm sure the market can look forward to seeing that. Is there another project then as well that we should cover?
I think so, Mark. We need to briefly touch on Thorny River in South Africa.
Okay.
We've been very active on this area for some time, and why? It's because of Marsfontein. Marsfontein is a very, very small kimberlite. It was only 0.4 hectares in size, but it produced a 3.5-day capex payback. So our focus on the Thorny River area over the last 4 years has been very, very detailed, precise exploration work to try and discover another Marsfontein. And at the end of last year, we discovered something we've called the River Blow, the image of which is on that slide itself. And then in April of this year, we discovered another blow fairly close to it, and called the River Extension Blow. I'm not very creative with these names, I'm afraid. And now we're drilling in between these two to see, the extent of the kimberlite continuity between it. So it's quite different from the Kalahari. The Kalahari, we're looking at larger deposits beneath a large amount of overburden with, a fair amount of logistical challenges associated with it. Here we're looking at much smaller, much higher grade deposits with no overburden, but with infrastructure, tar roads, water, power, communication almost on your doorstep. So it's quite a different thing, but it fits our focus of discovering or attempting to discover near-term production assets.
Okay. And just quickly, you've mentioned kimberlite a few times. Kimberlite is the name of a rock, isn't it, that contains diamonds? Is that right in layman's terms?
Mark, absolutely. Kimberlite is a rock generated from a volcano. Many of your listeners will be familiar with Krakatoa, Mount St. Helens, Mount Etna. Those are typically basaltic in origin. They come from very shallow in the mantle. Kimberlite magma comes from much deeper in the mantle, where carbon exists as diamond. And kimberlite basically transports up diamonds if they're there at the carbon interface to the surface. There are no kimberlite volcanoes erupting at the moment. Let me tell your listeners that. They're highly explosive. If you look at Mount St. Helens, it'll be 100 times Mount St. Helens. So basically, we're looking for extinct volcanic plugs made up of kimberlite.
Okay, good. And on Thorny River, then, you have exploration planned?
Yes, we're in the throes of completing a drilling program between the two blows.
Okay.
And as my last bullet says there are at least 3 other areas in the Thorny River project area which we need to go and have further precise exploration work on. We spent 4 years narrowing it down to these very little areas, and now we need to have very precise exploration on these areas, because after all, these kimberlites are small, but they are high grade.
Okay.
And so they have the potential to be very commercial for the company.
Okay. So have we covered all the projects then?
We have to, there's just a couple of other ones I just want to kind of touch on very briefly. The Maibwe joint venture we have in Botswana is also part of our Kalahari basket. So I haven't mentioned that earlier, so let me mention that now. Not just Thorny River drilling, we also have a mining permit over the Marsfontein gravels. Marsfontein, I think I've given an introduction on that already. There are some quite large gravel deposits surrounding Marsfontein, and we will recommence operations there once COVID restrictions allow. And because Botswana Diamonds is focused in Southern Africa, of course, would be interested in going back to Zimbabwe, because very little modern diamond exploration has taken place there. We have a joint venture with Vast in the Marangi diamond fields. We have a heads of agreement in terms of discovery of primary deposits in Zimbabwe, and we are looking at our own licenses too, as and when conditions allow.
Okay. And are these other projects, are you active on them or less so?
We are active on them. Maibwe, for example, we're partnered with the BCL, which is in liquidation, but we've made various offers to buy them out, so we can actually get cracking with that project. It's highly prospective diamondiferous kimberlites. COVID restrictions, we hope will be starting to ease now that we're out of our third wave in South Africa. So I would imagine that would be kicking off fairly shortly. And with Zimbabwe, it's difficult to say, Mark. That is beyond our control. It's up to when the various parties grant licenses. Okay.
But is it fair to say your main focus and your sort of flagships are Gugu, KX36, Sekaka, is that how I say it, and Thorny River?
That's absolutely spot on. It's the Kalahari and Thorny River. Those are our two kind of primary focus areas.
Okay. And is there any in particular that you are more interested in, or things that are coming shortly that you're looking out for across those ones?
Outside of what I've mentioned already, as you would imagine, because there are not many people who are doing the kind of thing that we are doing, we have projects crossing our desk weekly almost.
Okay.
And often it does take a few years to get a prospecting license. And as you would imagine, I will always keep mum on those projects until we've actually got the license in the bag. As you know, one of the main intellectual properties of an exploration company is your history, your knowledge, your data, and then you can only announce things once you've been granted the prospecting license. So we're always on the lookout for new potential projects which have a commercial application, but our focus is very much on what we've spoken about so far.
Okay. And with Gugu then, when you can hopefully get that into production in the not too distant future, can the funds that would come from that then help to fund the rest of the business activities and exploration?
Mark, that's always kind of the goal of an exploration company, is to find a diamond mine, and for that to actually, those funds to be used to go back to shareholders and to fund a future kind of pipeline of projects. That doesn't tend to happen in reality, because what tends to happen is that once you've actually developed a project to a stage which is commercially attractive, like we did with African Diamonds, you get bought out by a bigger fish. So we have the goal, yes, of converting these into producers. And my previous company was a diamond producing company, so this is nothing new to me at all. And we have that goal, but reality says at some point in the pipeline, someone with a bigger checkbook might just come along and write the check.
Okay, but either way, that's still a good day for both the company and shareholders when that happens. So yeah, that's
absolutely, Mark.
So did you just want to finish just briefly? Just look at the board very briefly. I did mention it in the introduction, the knowledge of the people in the business. So I can see there John Teeling. John, can you give me a few words on him? I know he's very big, a legacy in the exploration world.
Well, absolutely. This is the third company I'm running under John Teeling. I ran African Diamonds under him and West Africa Diamonds. African Diamonds is now Lucara. West Africa Diamonds is now Newfield Resources, an Australian listed company. John listed the first company on the AIM market. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's got involved in many different commodities. And of course, Teeling whiskey, which is very, very famous as well. And he's got a passion in particular for where we're working in Southern Africa and in actually particular as well, I'm sure he won't mind me saying it, of Botswana and Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. And, he is still as dynamic as he actually ever has been. Mm-hmm. And, we trade often dozens of emails on a day. And accompanying him are the two major Irish co-investors, Jim Finn, who's been finance director of all of these companies, extremely experienced in AIM listings and running the finances of AIM companies. And then David Horgan, who runs many remote operations in his area of business, aside from being a Cambridge qualified lawyer. And then if I kind of just briefly mention Robert Bouquet, Robert is a diamantaire. So he's an expert in the valuation and trading of rough and polished diamonds. He's based in Antwerp, which is the world center for it. And he's got huge experience in De Beers and Rio Tinto to kind of complement that. So we occupy the whole of the diamond value chain here, as well as the whole of the financing value chain at the same time.
Okay, good. Okay, well, if you just go into your last slide there, which just gives us a snapshot of the sort of business at the moment. And while that's on there, I just want to ask you, just in terms of news flow then, what's the plan? Is the plan to keep the market very updated with the regular news flow, but also I think media as well? I think investors like to see pictures on site, particularly perhaps around Gugu as things start to happen, because it is an existing mine. So is there a plan for regular news flow? Obviously, it does depend on what's going on, but also just to keep investors updated with what's going on as we can, well, as you hopefully build this very nice looking story.
Mark, before I comment on news flow, I'd like to say that Botswana Diamonds does have a very active Twitter handle, Facebook page, YouTube videos, and we do post a lot of material on that. Now, for example, last week, I was at our Thorny River drilling project from Monday to Thursday, and every day I made sure that I posted hopefully something of interest to investors, whether it be a drilling rig, whether it be kimberlite, and the kind of area we're working in. So we are active from a media perspective. So what news flow are we expecting over the next period of time? First up would be the drilling results in Thorny River. That should be up within the next kind of couple of weeks. Then there's going to be an update on our Burgundy and Dimextrat Alliance in Botswana in terms of the exploration program going forward. There will be updates on Gugu in terms of the various regulatory approvals and the financing supporting it. And there could even be maybe one or two other new projects kind of filtering in during the next period of time. So you see that if you look at our history, we do put out a news release probably 3 times every 2 months. So it's a little bit more than once a month, as we are very active on our projects. And when we say that we're going to be doing some drilling, we do the drilling. And when we say we're going to put the results out in 2 weeks' time, we put the results out in 2 weeks' time. So, our shareholders can hold us fully accountable for those things.
Okay. Well, James Campbell, Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds. Thank you very much for your time, going through in detail the company, the project, and the investment case, really, and what's to come. Thank you very much for your time today.
And thank you very much indeed for having me, Mark. And it's been a great privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews, and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.